Hello everybody and welcome to another tier list video here on the channel. And today we're going to be getting into, you know them, you love them, you've read them, fantasy tropes. And if you'd like to see me cover another tier list that I haven't yet here on the channel, please leave in the comments down below. But without any further ado, I have picked 23 random fantasy tropes to discuss here today, and we're going to go ahead and talk about whether or not they're great every time we see them, it's a mixed bag, or they cause some groans. Starting off, we have the most universally applied trope in all of fantasy, and maybe all of fiction, if we're being honest here, and that would be plot armor. Plot armor is just everywhere. Even in things that claim to be like anti-fantasy, you end up with plot armor. The example meme I even pulled from is from an anti-fantasy series, A Song of Ice and Fire, and it shows Jon Snow about to have his plot armor activate. So, here's the thing though, you can't discredit plot armor. We need it to tell the stories we want to read. You cannot have a completely plot armor lacking series, because then your chosen one would probably just die right at the beginning, because whoever they're going against would be like, oh, that's the chosen one guy we're going to kill? Yeah, I'm going to go kill him right now before he gets any training, and then he'd die. So I'm going to go ahead and not say this is a bad thing. I actually do think plot armor is a good thing. It obviously can be abused. It can be in the too much zone, but it allows us to have what we need to have. So I'm going to leave it an A tier and just put a big old fat asterisk next to it for authors of go easy on this one. Even though it's a good thing, go easy on it. Next up, we have the remote village. Your farm boy's starting out somewhere, right? And he's going to be in a remote village. Some people I know would throw this all the way down in D, I think purely because they're just tired of seeing it. Like, I understand. I'm a bit tired of seeing the remote village too, but I don't hate it or anything, and it also does provide very useful starting for your character, because if they're a part of this remote village, they need to be introduced to the world, which then can allow you to introduce the reader through them, and it feels much more natural. So especially for like first-time authors or people who really want to lean into these tropes, I don't think it's a horrible thing, but it's not one I'm wanting or craving to see more. So I'll leave it at C, which is just, you know, it exists. I'm not feeling any way about it. It's just there. And it can go good, it can go bad. I don't think it adds anything necessarily unless you're an author who wants some assistance to really get started. The secret royalty trope. Yes, they turn out to be royalty all along. This is one of my least favorite tropes. It's absolutely D tier. I hate this because, weirdly enough, it often doesn't even largely affect the story in some ways. It's just there to be there and be cool, and I really dislike it. So many of these books I've seen secret royalty where it's even just been like revealed at the end, where like, oh, that missing prince, turns out it was you. Great, take the throne. Even though everything's already done, we're making this part of the falling action for some reason. Like, it's just, it's terrible. I've very, very, very rarely seen it done well. I occasionally see people try to lump Aragorn in with this. Aragorn's not secret royalty. We know what he is. In the book, he's very much so like, I'm going to go do this. It's part of who I am, and it's out in the open. So I don't lump him in with this. This is specifically people where it's like revealed to them. They don't even know that they've been royalty this whole time. Chosen one trope. This is one of those tropes that, again, it just depends on the hands of who it is, which honestly, every trope just depends on who the author is and how well it's handled, except for secret royalty. Just off with secret royalty. I'm sorry. But chosen one trope, I think I can like me some chosen ones. I don't always dislike it. It's just more often than probably any other trope done poorly or abused, especially when it's put in with overdone plot armor. But I'm gonna leave it in. I'm gonna leave it in C, high C. I can be really okay and enjoy some chosen ones, but I also never like request it. It's just kind of in that gray territory. And reminder, if you would like to fill out this tier list, a link to this tier list you can fill out yourself and tweet at me or whatever. If you'd like to follow me at Twitter here, you can go right ahead and do so. I like seeing what y'all's takes are on these. The Dark Lord trope. That's going to be a B for me. I do like it. Obviously, it's another one that, God, bad Dark Lords are so annoying. Oh, they're so bad. But when they're done really well, they're spectacular. So I'm going to leave that in B. And, you know, it's again one of those things like a remote village that can just add instant stakes and really get authors who want to just rely on these tropes that have been part of the genre for so long to get going, something familiar you can write from. So I'm not going to really hate on people who are doing that, especially since I am writing a book that has a bit of a Dark Lord, except you're kind of working with whatever. MacGuffin item. I'm using Kalendor from Wheel of Time as an example. MacGuffin item. I used to be more sour on MacGuffin item, but I've seen it used very cleverly recently in a few different stories, and it's made me more positive on it because a MacGuffin item, if you're smart with it, can really lend to some subversions. It can do some interesting stuff. I'm talking, I'm also okay with traditional MacGuffin items, like, you know, the ring from Lord of the Rings. That's great. You can also go in the other direction, like the Dragon Scroll from Kung Fu Panda. Why am I using that example? Because Kung Fu Panda is actually a surprisingly great film. Just gonna put that out there. And the sequels aren't bad. Why do I know this? Shut up. I'm going to put it high B. I'm okay with some MacGuffin items. The Fellowship trope. First S tier entry for me. S tier for tropes is going to be if it's not in your book. I actually think your book will suffer as a result, unless you're like stupendous or have a very clear direction or something, or a reason this can't be in there. Fellowship of characters of any kind, I'm talking even just like two who are going back to back together. I mean, I have a hard time thinking of fantasy books that don't have a fellowship of some sort. Even Gentlemen Bastards, you got the two guys getting each other's back. English. I got to have a team. I like having a team. I want to get to know them. I want their chemistry. I want their relationship dynamics. It lends into that whole, you know, chemistry and friendship focus I've been pushing for so long. I'm just tired of everything being romance. Let people be friends and let their different dynamics and relationships with each other feel different. That immediately helps. Now, speaking of one of the members of your fellowship, the I'm not like the other girls trope. This one drives me insane because it's condescending to other women, and it just feels obnoxious, especially in like more adult literature. I get the appeal for younger crowds and like YA and stuff, but the I'm not like the other girls trope just talks down to women, especially when it's penned by male authors poorly, and very often I just find it to be annoying. I'm going to go ahead and put it in D tier. It's, oh, yeah, I don't like feminine products, and then they try and paste it like women who like feminine things are bad, and it's like, hey, let everyone be happy and stop being a condescending asshole. Great. And of course, if you're going to have the I'm not like the other girls girl, your main character is going to insta-love fall in with them. I didn't know what to pull for insta-love, so I have an instant ramen t-shirt that says instant love on it. I don't like instant love. This is also D tier for me. D tier meaning it just does not work out. I don't like it. Don't add it to your story. Oh man, I hate instant love. Bonkers drives me insane. Evil King, another one that I actually, it's been with the genre for so long. Evil kings like Joffrey or Tomato Man, whose name I forget from Lord of the Rings, but you know who I'm talking about. They've been around. They aren't necessarily the main antagonist, but they exist to be an additional foil to your protagonists. They often have to be overthrown or converted, won over. You can actually do a pretty decent amount of different directions with conquering an evil king type, but you usually will end up in the same space. It doesn't allow the most flexibility. I'm going to still end up in B tier here. I actually like them more than the Dark Lords, but not by a huge amount. Next up, we have the Good King, which, you know, pretty much tied in right alongside with the Evil King. I think I slightly prefer Evil Kings because I've seen more creative stuff done with them. In fact, I think it's more like that. I think it's Dark Lord than Good King for me. Magical City. I love me magical cities. They are a trope that is everywhere. Don't care. I love them. They are perfect. Magic me up some cities. Homie, give me magic cities. If you do it right, it's characterful. It gives personality to your world. If you're going to have a magical city, when your character's in that magical city, they need to learn something new. And that transitions nicely into the trope of the prodigy character. Great at everything, they're magnificent, no flaws. This is different than plot armor. Plot armor is when they should be harmed or die, they don't. This actually ties more into every time they try and acquire a new skill, they're the goddamn like Rain Man at it. They are just perfect all the time. This drives me crazy. It can be applied correctly if you're careful in some stories, so I will put it in C. I'll put it below the remote village, though. It's just, you need to be really, 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 really skilled to pull this off, to make it make sense, and a lot of in-story justification. And even then, if you abuse it, it can become obnoxious and turn your audience against you. The old wise wizard trope / mentor trope. S tier, top of the line. This is amazing. Don't care how much it's overdone. Yeah, maybe like in the same rate of usage in comparison to other tropes, it's severely overdone, but something about it just works out. Even in 5th Sorceress, maybe the worst thing ever put on page, the old wise wizard in that didn't drive me nuts, because it was just like, you're fantastic. The fact that you're putting up with this piece of garbage character that you're mentoring just makes me somehow admire you more. Not really, though. He is not believable. You should kill him in his sleep. Anyway, I'm off track. Old wise wizard, mentor figure. It's just a good addition to your story. Even if you don't need it, just sprinkle it in there for spice. Just give it a little like Salt Bae Bam mentor. Maybe not. Maybe like, it'd be weird in his Dark Materials if there's suddenly just an old wizard following Lyra around. But most of the time, put it in. The Dark Forest. I put this in because I recently encountered it again. It's becoming less prevalent, but it's amazing. If you go back to like pre-80s, maybe still quite a bit in the 80s, every fantasy book had a dark evil forest. I don't know why. Or a swamp. Sometimes it was a swamp. But it's just, I mean, I didn't hate it. Like, okay, evil forest, and you can do some neat nature things in there. I like the idea of like dark, evil, twisted nature. So if you're using it with that angle, I actually quite like it. But if you're just having like dark, evil forest, bad guy there, then I'm a little more on it. But I'm going to go ahead and put it in middle of B. Because, you know, if you're using it right, I think it's pretty, that's some nice little flavor here. Now, your character's currently in love with the I'm not like the other girl's girl, who is also probably a prodigy, and he insta-loved her. But he's come across a new girl, and this girl isn't condescending to other female characters, pretending like she's better because she doesn't like the same things as them. So then you're going to have a love triangle. Yay! Love triangles can work if what you do with them is actually make your readers understand why it's happening. Okay, yes, they are in love with other people, and here's why their chemistry matches. There've been some distance, so it's not like they're falling in love in front of the other person. That's an immediate way to make us hate them. And there's actual like stakes to this of like, oh, what's going on? Why are they pulled in this direction? And there's something pulling them in this direction. There's brain versus heart. If you pull it off, it can work. Or you can make it a consensual, non-traditional relationship that is a love triangle where, you know, all that stuff's great too. I'm an open-minded feller. So if you're doing it right, it can work. So I'll put it in C tier. The epic world trope. Kind of putting that right up there in S tier. I'm even going to put it above the Fellowship. We read fantasy for a reason. Give us an epic world. We deserve it. Because we're actually all pretty awful. So we really don't deserve it, but we get it and we demand it. The Quest. They must embark in a journey, a quest to find a thing. The fantasy right now is harshly veering away from quest structure. This is something that was, of course, the staple for decades, but now questing is on the decline, and instead you more just have like, you know, not such traditional structured adventures. But I'm going to go ahead and say I can be down for a good quest. I don't always encourage authors to do it, but it rarely bothers me. I know some people are bugged by this, so other people would put this a lot lower, but, you know, I have love for like Fellowship, ring questing type adventures that are going for that Lord of the Rings vibe. I've seen it a billion times, but I always end up having, I don't know whether it's nostalgia or what, but some care for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this in the A. People are gonna be upset with me. That's fine, but I'm even gonna put it below plot armor. And here's the thing: I know people are probably still mad that I put plot armor so high, but you got to remember, without it, these books don't happen. Now we have the fair race. Whether it's elves or the author's own invention, the fair race is something that is in so much fantasy. They're usually longer living, more naturally beautiful. They're just elf twists. There's so many different elf twists out there, or they're just elves. And I'm cool with it. I'll put it right in there with the Dark Forest because they're kind of the anti-parallel to that, right? You have the Dark Forest and the corruption side of nature. These people are usually presented as like the better side of nature, the more pure, advanced, higher evolved side of it. So I'll throw that over there. The random horror sequence. This is one I don't see talked about a lot, but it's in so many fantasy books. Just like watch for it and you'll see it. Random bits of horror in a fantasy book or series. It's in his Dark Materials, definitely in Harry Potter, definitely in Lord of the Rings. I can continue on. A lot of these guys have just like scenes of horror sprinkled throughout. And this is not Stephen King who's setting out to write horror in his fantasy. This is just an author clearly deciding like, I'm going to put some thrills in there. And I actually really like this. I'm going to put it above questing. It's just usually if it's done well, a good tone shift, kind of re-engages the reader, raises stakes, especially if you have some consequences for going down like this. I can really dig that. I forget what book it was, but there was 3 witches in one book that I read, and they like took valuable items from our characters. And I was so young, just the idea of witches when I read this was scary. The cannon fodder. A lot of people are going to put cannon fodder lower. Usually these serve the Dark Lord, and they're just like the minions he creates. Of course, going all the way and back even before Tolkien, these guys have been around. And maybe never done as well as Tolkien did, but I actually think, yeah, there's going to be people who are bothered by this, but I like having some cannon fodder for our heroes to hack and slash through. You know, it gives us fun action without the super high stakes, and lets us see, you know, what powers and how good at fighting our characters are. I'll put them just above questing as well in A tier. Now we're reaching the end of the story. We've had our love triangle resolve. We've been through the cannon fodder. We've quested it up. So there needs to be the grand epic final battle. And who doesn't like a grand epic well-earned final battle? Even in bad stories, if you know shit's going down, your ears are gonna perk on up a little bit. You're gonna go, huh? What's going on? It's the epic final battle. You're going to be there for that. So I'm going to put it right. I'm pretty much tied with cannon fodder because one couldn't exist without the other, really. But yeah, definite A tier for me. And then the final showdown, the big showdown between the Dark Lord or the antagonist or however you have it set up in your book and your hero. I'm probably going to put this bottom of A because I've weirdly enjoyed it more and more when like the antagonist is somehow taken out either by the full party or not our main protagonist. You know, give us that Matt scene in a spoiler moment in Wheel of Time where like, oh, you think that antagonist is going to be taken out by our other main character? No. It's actually given to this more B tier person in the party. Not that Matt is B in the Wheel of Time. You know what I'm saying? He's not the main focus at that point. So yeah, for that plot line. So yeah, I think I'm going to put it in A because it is epic. It is awesome. It feels great. But I think it's actually becoming more and more interesting to subvert. Anyway, this has just been a bunch of random fantasy tropes for me to rant, ramble about, and rank here. Let me know what your favorite fantasy tropes are in the comments down below. What tropes would you like to see in another tier list, and what tier list would you like to see next here on the channel? Fill this out yourself if you'd like to. It's linked in the description. Feel free to tweet it at me. And I am curious to see what people have to suggest for next time. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you'd like to support what I do here. And have a good one, y'all. Peace. Sorry for the sound of Pips purring in the background. I'd like to record my special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, Vosef. Have a good one.